Thank you for joining me. Today, our focus is mental care and emotional healing are not about pretending to be fine. Have you ever tried to keep going while your mind felt heavy and crowded? This lesson can help you care for that inner space more gently. Mental care and emotional healing are not about pretending to be fine. They are about learning how to care for your inner life with honesty, patience, and steady attention. Many people carry emotional pain quietly. They keep working, keep smiling, and keep moving, while something inside them feels tired, heavy, or deeply unsettled. Healing begins when you stop treating that inner pain like a weakness that must be hidden. It begins when you understand that your mind also needs care, just like your body needs rest, food, and recovery. Emotional healing is not always dramatic. Often, it is quiet. It happens through awareness, through gentle truth, and through small daily choices that help you feel safe inside yourself again. This is why mental care matters. It is not a luxury. It is part of a stable and healthy life. When your inner world is neglected, even simple things can feel heavy. When your inner world is cared for, you begin to think more clearly, feel more balanced, and respond to life with greater strength. This topic is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming more whole. It is about learning how to notice your pain without being ruled by it, how to give yourself support without becoming passive, and how to move forward without denying what you have been through. Lesson 1. Understanding what mental care really means. Mental care is the practice of taking your thoughts, emotions, stress, and inner condition seriously. It means paying attention to what is happening inside you instead of waiting until everything becomes overwhelming. Many people only respond to their inner state when they can no longer function well. They wait until they are exhausted, emotionally numb, constantly irritated, or unable to focus. But mental care works best when it becomes a regular part of life, not just an emergency response. In the same way that physical health needs regular care, emotional health also needs steady support. You do not have to wait for a crisis to begin listening to yourself. Mental care includes simple but powerful actions. It includes resting when your nervous system is overloaded, noticing when your self-talk becomes harsh, setting boundaries when relationships drain you, and giving yourself space to process what you feel. It also includes asking for help when needed. Caring for your mind does not mean solving everything alone. One common mistake is thinking mental care is the same as temporary comfort. Comfort can help, but true care goes deeper. For example, scrolling on your phone for hours may distract you, but it may not actually restore you. Ignoring stress for a few days may delay the problem, but it usually does not heal it. Real mental care asks a deeper question. What does my mind actually need right now in order to become more stable, clear, and supported? Sometimes the answer is rest. Sometimes it is truth. Sometimes it is distance from something unhealthy. Sometimes it is a conversation, a routine, a prayer, a journal entry, a quiet walk, or professional support. Mental care is also about learning your personal signals. Some people shut down when they are hurt. Some become angry. Some overthink. Some become busy all the time, so they do not have to feel what is really going on. Healing becomes easier when you stop judging these patterns and start observing them. The goal is not to shame yourself for how you cope. The goal is to understand yourself well enough to care for yourself wisely. That is where emotional maturity begins. When you understand what your mind is doing, you are less likely to be controlled by it unconsciously. Mental care gives you this advantage. It teaches you to notice, interpret, and respond. And that makes healing possible. Lesson 2. Why emotional pain must be acknowledged. Emotional pain does not disappear simply because you ignore it. Very often, what is unspoken becomes heavier. Pain that is not processed usually finds another way to express itself. It may show up as anger, anxiety, shame, numbness, sleep problems, people-pleasing, hopelessness, or constant tension in the body. This is why emotional healing begins with acknowledgement. You cannot heal what you refuse to face. Acknowledgement does not mean making pain bigger than it is. It means being honest enough to say, "This hurt me, this affected me, this exhausted me, or this changed something inside me." That kind of honesty is powerful. It stops the inner confusion that happens when your experience is real, but you keep telling yourself it should not matter. Many people have learned to dismiss their own emotional wounds. They say things like, "Other people have it worse, I should be over this already," or "Maybe I am just too sensitive." But pain does not heal through comparison. It heals through recognition. Your emotional response is information. It tells you that something important happened inside you. Maybe trust was broken. Maybe you felt abandoned. Maybe you lost something. Maybe you were under pressure for too long. Whatever the reason, the first healthy step is to stop arguing with the fact that it affected you. Acknowledgement also creates self-compassion. When you admit that something hurt, you begin to respond to yourself with more fairness. You become less harsh and more accurate. You stop expecting your heart to recover on command. This does not mean staying in pain forever. It means giving yourself the truth you need so healing has somewhere to begin. There is a major difference between dwelling and acknowledging. Dwelling means circling the pain without movement. Acknowledging means facing the pain so movement becomes possible. One keeps you trapped. The other opens the door. Sometimes acknowledgement happens in very simple words. You may say, "I am more hurt than I wanted to admit." You may say, "I have been carrying too much alone." You may say, "I am tired of pretending I am not affected." Those words may look small, but they can change the direction of your healing. What you name clearly becomes easier to understand, and what you understand becomes easier to care for. Lesson 3. Creating inner safety for healing. Emotional healing needs an environment of safety. If your inner world always feels rushed, judged, or threatened, it becomes very hard for honest healing to happen. Inner safety means creating a relationship with yourself that is steady enough for truth. It means your mind begins to learn that feeling something deeply is not the same as being destroyed by it. Many people fear their own emotions because they have never learned how to sit with them safely. When sadness comes, they panic. When anxiety rises, they fight it immediately. When shame appears, they become harsh with themselves. This reaction is understandable, but it can keep healing far away. Emotions usually calm down more effectively when they are met with steadiness rather than fear. Inner safety begins with how you speak to yourself. If your self-talk is constantly critical, your emotional wounds will stay tense. A healing inner voice sounds different. It says, "This is hard, but I can stay with myself. I do not need to attack myself for feeling this. I can move through this one step at a time." That kind of language reduces inner danger. It teaches the nervous system that the pain is real, but there is also support present. Another part of inner safety is slowing down enough to notice what you feel in the body. Emotions are not only thoughts. They often live in the chest, stomach, throat, shoulders, and breathing. You may notice pressure, shaking, tightness, heat, or heaviness. When you bring calm attention to the body, you begin to reconnect with yourself in a grounded way. This can be as simple as sitting quietly and asking, "What am I feeling in my body right now? And what might this feeling need?" For some people, the answer may be rest. For others, it may be deep breathing, a slower schedule, gentle movement, tears, silence, or being around a trusted person. Healing also becomes safer when you reduce unnecessary emotional noise. This may mean spending less time around chaos, constant criticism, emotional manipulation, or environments that keep your mind in survival mode. You cannot fully heal in every environment, and it is wise to admit that. Some spaces make clarity harder. Some relationships keep old wounds active. Part of emotional care is noticing which environments help your nervous system settle and which ones keep it alarmed. Inner safety is not about eliminating every difficulty. It is about becoming a safe place for yourself, even while life remains imperfect. When your inner world becomes less hostile, your emotions no longer feel like enemies. They begin to feel like signals that can be listened to, understood, and guided. That is one of the most important shifts in healing. Lesson 4. Releasing shame and harsh self-judgment. One of the greatest obstacles to emotional healing is shame. Shame says that your pain is embarrassing, your struggles make you weak, and your emotions are proof that something is wrong with you. When shame becomes strong, people do not just carry pain. They carry pain about having pain. That second layer makes healing much harder. Harsh self-judgment often develops when people have been criticized, ignored, compared, or pressured for a long time. Over time, the outside voice becomes an inside voice. Then, even when no one is attacking you, your own mind continues the attack. You call yourself lazy when you are actually exhausted. You call yourself weak when you are actually wounded. You call yourself dramatic when you are actually overwhelmed. This is not emotional strength. It is inner cruelty disguised as discipline. Healing asks you to challenge that pattern. It asks you to separate truth from accusation. Truth may say, I am not functioning well right now, and something needs to change. Accusation says, I am a failure, and I will never get better. Truth is specific and useful. Shame is global and destructive. One leads to care. The other leads to paralysis. Releasing shame does not mean removing responsibility. You can still be honest about your habits, your choices, and your need for growth. But honesty becomes more helpful when it is rooted in respect. You are much more likely to heal when your inner voice becomes clear and firm, not cruel. A healthier inner response sounds like this. I am struggling, but I am still worthy of care. I made mistakes, but mistakes are not my identity. I need healing, structure, and truth, not humiliation. This shift may feel unfamiliar at first. People who are used to self-criticism often believe kindness will make them lazy. But real self-respect does not make you passive. It makes you stronger because it reduces the wasted energy of self-attack. Shame drains energy. Self-compassion restores it. And restored energy helps you do the hard work of actual change. There is also deep healing in refusing to define yourself by your hardest season. What happened to you matters. What you did in survival mode may also matter. But healing becomes possible when you stop turning every wound into a permanent identity. You are not only your fear. You are not only your grief. You are not only your failure, your regret, or your broken season. You are a human being still in process. And people in process need guidance, patience, boundaries, and repair, not shame. Lesson 5. Healthy ways to process emotion. Emotions need movement. If they are always suppressed, they tend to stay stuck. If they are always expressed without guidance, they can become chaotic. Healing usually requires a middle path. You allow emotions to move, but you also help direct that movement in healthy ways. One of the most effective ways to process emotion is naming it with precision. Many people use one word for everything. They say, I feel bad, or I feel stressed. But the mind becomes clearer when the language becomes clearer. Maybe you feel disappointed, not hopeless. Maybe you feel lonely, not rejected. Maybe you feel afraid, guilty, embarrassed, or mentally overloaded. The more accurately you name an emotion, the easier it becomes to understand what caused it and what it may need. Writing can also be powerful. Journaling gives emotion structure. It allows thoughts that feel crowded inside the head to become visible and more manageable. You do not need to write beautifully. You only need to write honestly. You can describe what happened, what you felt, what you wished had happened, and what you need now. This kind of writing can reduce confusion and help you see patterns over time. Talking is another healthy form of processing. A trusted friend, counselor, mentor, or therapist can sometimes help you understand your emotions more clearly than you can by yourself. Being heard without judgment is deeply regulating. It reminds the nervous system that pain does not always have to be carried alone. Crying can also be part of healing. For many people, crying is not weakness. It is release. It helps the body complete a stress response that has been held inside. Not every emotional moment leads to tears, but when tears come honestly, they can be part of recovery. Physical movement matters too. A walk, stretching, slow exercise, or simply breathing deeply can help the body process stored tension. Sometimes the mind cannot settle because the body is still carrying unprocessed stress. Movement creates a channel for that pressure to loosen. At the same time, emotional processing should not become constant rumination. There is a difference between reflecting and repeating. Reflecting helps you understand. Repeating the same pain story without new insight often deepens exhaustion. This is why emotional healing needs both expression and direction. Ask yourself, am I processing this to understand it? Or am I only reopening the wound again and again? Healthy processing moves toward clarity, compassion, and wise action. It does not always feel pleasant, but it gradually helps the emotion lose its trapped intensity. Over time, feelings that once seemed too heavy to face become easier to carry and easier to release. Lesson 6. Setting boundaries that protect your peace. Emotional healing becomes much harder when your life has no boundaries. If everyone can access your time, energy, attention, and emotional capacity at any moment, you will often feel drained before you even begin to recover. Boundaries are not walls of hatred. They are clear limits that protect what is healthy. They help you decide what you will accept, what you will no longer carry, and where your responsibility ends. Many people struggle with boundaries because they confuse them with selfishness. They think saying no means they are cold, rude, or difficult. But without boundaries, resentment grows, burnout increases, and healing slows down. A boundary may sound simple. I cannot talk about this right now. I need rest tonight. I am not available for that. Please do not speak to me that way. I care, but I cannot solve this for you. These sentences may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you are used to overgiving. But discomfort does not mean the boundary is wrong. Very often, it means you are learning a new and healthier pattern. Boundaries are especially important when healing from emotionally difficult relationships. If someone repeatedly dismisses your feelings, manipulates your guilt, violates your trust, or keeps you in confusion, your nervous system may stay activated around them. In some cases, love alone is not enough to make a relationship safe. That truth can be painful, but it is sometimes necessary. Boundaries do not always require long explanations. A calm and clear limit is often enough. You do not need everyone to agree with your boundary in order for it to be valid. You only need to recognize that peace also deserves protection. There are also internal boundaries. You may need boundaries with your own habits, such as doom scrolling late at night, overcommitting when already exhausted, revisiting painful conversations in your head for hours, or constantly exposing yourself to content that keeps you anxious. Emotional healing is supported when you reduce the habits that repeatedly disturb your inner balance. Boundaries create space, and healing often needs space. Space to think clearly, space to rest, space to notice what you actually feel, space to stop performing and start recovering. Without boundaries, your energy leaks out in too many directions. With boundaries, your energy can return to the places that truly need care. Lesson 7. Rebuilding yourself after hard seasons. Healing often becomes especially important after a hard season. This may be a breakup, grief, burnout, failure, betrayal, loneliness, family conflict, financial pressure, health anxiety, or simply a long period of emotional exhaustion. After difficult seasons, many people feel unlike themselves. Their energy is lower. Their trust is weaker. Their focus is damaged. Their joy feels far away. This can be frightening. But rebuilding is possible. It usually begins not with a dramatic breakthrough, but with a return to small, stabilizing actions. You may need to rebuild sleep, routine, nutrition, movement, spiritual grounding, social connection, or self-trust. You may need to rebuild your ability to make decisions calmly. You may need to rebuild confidence by keeping small promises to yourself again. During this stage, patience is essential. Many people become discouraged because they expect quick recovery from deep fatigue. They want to feel like themselves immediately. But emotional rebuilding often happens layer by layer. A person recovering from inner exhaustion may first regain a little clarity, then a little energy, then a little hope, then a stronger sense of direction. That progress is real, even if it feels slow. It also helps to stop measuring healing only by emotion. Some days you may still feel sad, anxious, or sensitive. That does not always mean you're going backward. Sometimes healing means you are now able to feel what you once had to suppress. Sometimes it means you recover more quickly after difficult moments. Sometimes it means you no longer abandon yourself when pain appears. That is real progress. Rebuilding also asks you to release the pressure to become the exact person you were before. After some life experiences, healing is not about going back. It is about becoming wiser, steadier, and more honest than before. Pain may change you, but that change does not have to reduce you. It can deepen you. It can make you more compassionate, more discerning, and more intentional about how you live. The rebuilding season is often quiet. Not many people see the discipline it takes to keep going gently. Not many people notice how brave it is to rest properly, begin again, ask for help, or stay honest about your limits. But those quiet actions are part of recovery. They are how a life becomes stable again from the inside out. Lesson 8. Letting hope return slowly and honestly. Hope is important in emotional healing, but real hope is not denial. It is not pretending everything is easy or telling yourself that pain should disappear quickly. Real hope is quieter and stronger than that. It says that even though this season is hard, healing is still possible. It says that progress can happen before everything feels resolved. It says that your story is still moving, even if this chapter feels heavy. For people who have been emotionally tired for a long time, hope can feel unfamiliar. Sometimes they do not want false encouragement, because they have already tried to stay positive while silently struggling. That is why honest hope matters. Honest hope does not erase difficulty. It simply refuses to believe that difficulty is the final truth. Hope can return in small ways. You notice one peaceful morning after many restless nights. You realize a memory hurts less than it did before. You respond more calmly to a trigger that once overwhelmed you. You ask for help sooner. You set a boundary faster. You forgive yourself more gently. You feel a little more present in your own life. These moments matter. They are often the early signs that healing is taking root. Hope also grows when you collect evidence of care. You keep a promise to yourself. You choose rest instead of self-neglect. You speak honestly instead of hiding. You return to a healthy routine after slipping. You reach for support instead of isolating again. Each of these actions sends a message inward. It says, I am not abandoning myself anymore. That message is deeply healing. Over time, hope becomes less dependent on perfect feelings. It becomes a grounded decision to continue caring for your life, even while some parts are still healing. That kind of hope is resilient. It can live beside sadness. It can live beside uncertainty. It can live beside unfinished recovery. And still, it moves you forward. Mental care and emotional healing are acts of courage. They ask you to stop running from your inner life and begin building a wiser relationship with it. They ask you to notice pain honestly, respond with care, release shame, set boundaries, and keep choosing small healing actions even when progress feels slow. This path is not always easy. Some days you will feel strong. Some days you will feel tender. Some days you will need more rest than usual. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are human, and healing is a human process. You do not need to force yourself into constant strength. You need steadiness, truth, and compassionate discipline. You need a way of living that supports your mind instead of exhausting it. You need to become someone who listens inward with wisdom, responds with patience, and protects peace with intention. The goal is not to become untouched by pain. The goal is to become someone who knows how to care for pain without losing direction. Little by little, this changes everything. Your thoughts become less hostile. Your emotions become easier to understand. Your nervous system learns more safety. Your choices become healthier. Your life becomes more grounded. And as healing continues, you begin to discover something important. You are not only recovering from what hurt you, you are also building a stronger, calmer, and more honest way of being. That is the quiet power of mental care. That is the real beauty of emotional healing. And that is how a person slowly becomes whole again.